Thanks so much for coming today and welcome back to Newport. It's just so much fun to have a gathering of poets, and it reminds me of, if you can remember, back all those years, the Poets Concord that we used to have over here. So good to see a lot of familiar faces from that. I don't know if you know the poet Sue Parman. She couldn't come today, and she sent me a list of collective terms for poets. She thought I might share with you. So if we're nothing else today, we might be a declamation of poets, an enjambment of poets. My favorite, an annoyance of poets, a murmuration of poets, a confabulation of poets, a terror of poets, a kerfuffle of poets, and probably the most apt, an unemployment of poets. So Sue is with us in spirit today. Well, we're here to celebrate the release of The Grace of Oregon Rain, and I think this is a fitting moment for us to be reading today because we face more wildfires at this moment in Oregon than all of our adjacent states combined. So we really are feeling in our bones the grace of our Oregon rain. And these poems all reveal how intricately rain interacts with and affects the lives of Oregonians. And somebody asked me if I would talk a little bit about the inception of the volume. And lately, you know, I'm retired, so I'm not like an ambitious poet. I'm not, you know, constantly sending things out, and I don't have a spreadsheet and everything. But every once in a while I see a call and I send something in. And so I connected up with a publisher who's doing these kind of themed volumes. And so I've ended up in a couple of her themed volumes, and they're nice. And I thought, you know, I have this press, Turnstone Books of Oregon, and wouldn't that be fun to put together something? And I don't know, it just came to me sort of magically that rain would be a good thing for us to write about, and in fact that people probably had poems about rain. So that's really how it got inspired, and I put out a call to people I knew and people I didn't know, hopefully, and y'all sent stuff in, and it was a wonderful experience for me, I have to tell you, because every poem was wonderful in its own way, and I put in the little introduction that if you were asked to say which was the favorite poem of yours in the anthology, you would say the one on this page, and the one on the next page, and the one on the next page. So I tried to arrange them in ways that the poems had dialogue with each other, and responded to each other, and built on each other. And I'll tell you, it just made my spirit happy to see all of the variety of forms that were used here, and the variety of topics, and the political aspects and the personal aspects, from falling in love in the rain to wondering how the homeless are doing in Portland tonight in the rain. So it was really a joy for me to do. I'm trying to speak up. I'm not sure I'm doing a very good job. We don't have a microphone, so as you read, if you would please try to use your, I'm talking to other people in the audience voice instead of this one. What I thought we would do today then is read more or less in the order of those who came, that they are in the volume, and so I will call you up. I see mostly those who are already converted to poetry here instead of lots of community folks, but so we will have a good amount of time if each of us reads. We'll fill a good amount of time. So I remember sometimes on college campuses somebody would say, let's have a marathon reading of James Joyce's Ulysses. And I don't want it to turn into that. So if you would try to, if you have long poems, maybe just read the one long poem. If yours are shorter, you know, whatever you can do in 5 minutes. And I'm sure that everyone else would love to hear just a few words about your inspiration for that poem or something about that poem, if you feel you have the time. So I have back there, you probably already picked it up, there were author copies, and if there aren't any left, there's others over here. Every author would get at least one copy. And then you have your books around. The rest of us, I guess, can look around and see what's been going on with the writing community. We'll go about maybe 50 minutes, have a break, and look around and talk to each other, and then we'll finish up. So I will call names, and we will proceed. And I love the opening poem of the volume, Barbara Drake.
It's so nice to be here. You know, when you moved over from Eastern Oregon and came here and started the Concord, that's so wonderful. It's so connecting. I love the way you connect people.
Energy going on here that
yeah,
needs to do something.
It was great. So it's wonderful to be here today. Bill, if I'm not loud enough, would you wave at me or something? Yeah. Where am I? Here we go. The first one is isolate or isolate, whichever you want to do. An isolate, I always think of as myself in the sound of this poem, or isolate. Loosely, like ribbons, the rain hangs in the air. A green rain, like willow leaves or silk threads. I will walk into it, pushing it aside and disappearing, as if entering a doorway covered by a bead curtain. And that was the inspiration, is just that feeling of rain. I like rain. I was saying that I rarely use a head cover when it's raining. I just have short hair, and you can just go like that when you get indoors. And the next one is rainy day photograph, and it's a picture. I should have brought a big copy or something of my husband walking down our road. We take walks every day, and it's in the rain, and I took this picture of him. It's up our road, and there was just this big cloud over his head. And the dogs, of course. Rainy day photograph. The moment that in a second won't be there anymore is the one I want. The one where light shines through rain and a small cloud arranges itself between trees above the illuminated road. You are there in that moment, and our two dogs are there as the world composes itself. And color is there, but so faintly amid 1,000 grays. It takes a while to recognize that moment. And poets are often also photographers, and you look for that thing that you want to see and get it, and it's fun, interesting. And then the last one is a little longer, but I don't think it'll take very long. The smoke or dust or whatever is coming from the east. When I left home, it was like, oh, you know. So I'll keep blowing my nose. Rain, sweet rain. And the sweet is S-U-I-T-E. Okay, rain, sweet rain. And it covers a lot of different kinds of rain in Oregon. Silver tinsel streamers on a Christmas tree, called icicles elsewhere, are called rain in Oregon. When I lived in the Midwest, where children built tunnels and forts of snow, I thought of the canals of rainwater, the clay mud we shaped into streams, rivers, dams when I was a kid in Oregon. Snow stays put, rain runs. On the cloudiest days, rain makes it clear we humans are bottom fish in this sea of air. In 1964, the year of the big flood, the sky was dark for a week. All my life, I've seen sky darken before rain, but never that dark. When first we married, we used to go to bed early and stay late to hear the blue rain rattle on the old roof up under the eaves. There is a kind of small, sporadic rain my mother always called spitting. Is it raining? No, just spitting. During the war, we walked to school in raincoats. We called commando coats. The war was far away. The rain was here. The rain of Oregon staggers in from the coast like a sweetheart sailor. Trips on the Coast Range, splash. Trips on the Cascades, splash, and falls. Howdy, rain. Welcome home.
Let's see, did Lex make it? I don't think Lex.
He's coming, I know.
Okay, we'll get him in later. Come on in. Doug Stone.
I want to thank Sandy for putting this book together. This is the book that should be required reading of anybody who's thinking about moving to Oregon. And especially like down on the bayfront, you might hear tourists talking about what wonderful weather this is. I think we should move here. And then hand them this and say, you know, you need to see the other side of the coin. It's a wonderful book. It's just incredible. A morning walk in Portland just before rain. The gray October air swirls damp and cool, cleansing away the last thoughts of summer. This will be a day without shadows. The sun is left for California. Maples are splotched with yellow, oaks crisp the color of rust. There will be no flamboyant show of leaves. The Northwest never gives up her green. The mountains and valleys already swell with the lush verdancy. Here, I'm going to switch
Oh, sure.
to some. I'll start over. A morning walk in winter, in Portland just before rain. The gray October air swirls damp and cool, cleansing away last thoughts of summer. This will be a day without shadows. The sun is left for California. Maples are splotched with yellow. Oaks crisp the color of rust. There will be no flamboyant show of leaves. The Northwest never gives up her green. The mountains and valleys already swell with shades of their lush winter verdancy. Here autumn does not feel like an ending. I hear the great door on the Pacific open, welcoming our season of rain and renewal. This next poem is called Early Spring Near Airlie. If you're not familiar where Airlie is, Airlie actually is not a town. It used to be a town, but it's just a spot now. About maybe 10, 12 miles north of Corvallis, off of Highway 99. Airlie is in Clem Stark country. Clem didn't live very far from there, right on the edge of the foothills of the Coast Range. Early spring near Airlie. Rain showers scuttle out of the foothills, bristling with biblical shafts of sunlight, scattering rainbows that bounce like joyous colts across the valley floor. Blasts of sunshine flash off rain-soaked grass, blinds the moment with hope of warmth, until thugs of dark clouds full of winter attitude and hail chase the sun away. This last poem, it's called A Letter from Oregon. This is in a voice of somebody who's moved to Oregon and probably didn't know quite what they were getting into, but now has made their peace with Oregon rain. Letter from Oregon. When I first arrived, I was told there would be a sadness in the rain-soaked winter light, as if something was lost and might never be found again. Then I learned to listen to the rain and walk without the burden of my shadow. Here the rain tells the truth about everything it touches. The hard city truth of glistening concrete, glass, and steel. The soft, lush truth of those things green and living. The quiet truth of a landscape always under low-slung clouds, softening in the song of winter rain. On those rare days when the winter sun ignites the sky, it tries to tell me the way to my shadow is a gift, but I no longer trust the promise of bright, cold light. Rain will be gray. That is the nature of rain. But it will never be indifferent, and it will never lie. That, too, is the nature of rain.
Thank you. Cynthia Jacobi.
Thank you, Sandy. I echo everyone's sentiments today. The name of my poem is Weather Forecast, and since I am from here in Newport, I will tell you, we have a lot of sun here. Even in the winter, we get sun breaks. It's a rare day that the sun doesn't peep through, so welcome to my town. Weather forecast. A good chance of ozone this afternoon before rain arrows the roof and the frog's overture commences. We are predicting a bloom of damp umbrellas in early evening with a 100% chance of soft all-night drizzle. The quick edge of blue sky will evaporate as steady silver tinsel turns into a heavy barrage of scattered mercury drops. To the east, a possible chance of battle gray clouds transmitting electric calligraphy. By Friday, platinum skies will give way to sun and exceptionally gentle breezes to the delight of the ferns unfurling and plump, bright green moss.
There are quite a few poets who live in the Central Coast area, and we already have heard mention of Clemens Stark, and we will talk more of having lost him this year later on. But there are two local poets whom we lost in the last memorable history, and one of them is Shirley Plummer. I miss her so much. And she actually had I'd like to read two of her poems today that I put in the collection. She actually has a volume called The Task of Falling Rain. To lay dust and wash leaves, to brighten blossoms and make the earth smell new, to cool a summer day and make a casual walk pleasant, to play a tune on the shimmering leaves, a lullaby on a tent, a tattoo on a skylight, to allow one to feel again like a small child, tongue tasting rain, jumping on puddles, to mask and wash away gentle tears for long ago remembrances. And then Shirley actually, probably at an age beyond where I am right now, decided she would live in a very small cabin. I'm not sure to have electricity. I didn't ever visit. It was a challenge for her, and she loved living in the middle of nature, at 10 mile down past Yachats. This one's called Bearing Gifts. Backed against the forest of spruce, on the downhill side of the coast range, nearly to the sea, the cabin is embedded in windless quiet. But listen, the oncoming wind, like a train roaring through the treetops, brings spendthrift rain. Rain to rattle the roof, rain to batter early azaleas, rain to drench the walker caught out. Lavish rain restores the small creek's rush that now sets the one-stone dam sparkling and spilling over. So that was Shirley, and I miss her. Rachel?
You're not going to read yours?
No, because I'm reading others.
Very good. When I was younger, reading was everything. That was where I found the real life. This poem makes a reference to Jules Verne, the images that he evoked in my brain still live with me. And so when I see something like that outside of my eyes, outside of my head, I mean with my eyes, Jules Verne is with me again.
Volume a little bit. Volume a little bit.
Okay, working on that. So this poem is called To Wake Underwater, with an epigraph from Jules Verne's Mysterious Island. As for me, said the sailor, if I ever grumble at work, my name's not Jack Pencroft. It seems like it's rained 40 days and 40 nights. No great flood, no monsoon, but a steady snare drum rat-a-tat-tat on rooftops, ditches level with the road and standing water, the reflection across them silver in moonlight. The road a black and winding snake cruising across the mirror of them, moving forward into a murky dark, a trace of Jules Verne uncharted. In town in some places, the water swamps the storm drain at one low street corner or another. Dirty weather, bellows our protagonist. We are driving in a runnel, shrouded in a gray drizzle. The wake of the oncoming truck falls sudden on the windscreen, the weight of the water a massive slap against glass we peer through, intent to see our way forward. In the dry leaves of my dream time, the bear turns towards me, turns into boar, then rhino, its single horn black and menacing, its dark coat long like the rusty cattle in Scotland. The storm's disquiet calls me to wake. The moss people appear to hunker down to ride out the deluge, surfing the roof's edges through the swells when I'm not looking. Pencroft notes a hidden glee.
Rachel Barton, and if there are some poets here you don't know, the back part of the book has everybody's credentials, which will make you full of admiration, I'm sure. Quite a lot of accomplishment here. All right, Charles Goodrich has my favorite title of any book of poetry, The Insects. South of the Valley.
Thank you for doing this. This is awesome. Many of you know that I had a long career as a professional gardener, so I was out in the rain sometimes when I would have chosen to be. The advantage being you get to have experiences. First two of these poems infer gardening, and this one called A Sprung Day tracks the vagaries of a spring day in Oregon. It's in 6 parts, but I'll just pause between each one. Deep fog at dawn, trouble waking. I grope downstairs with a bad dream tagging along. Mid-morning sun quivers in a mist, a candle behind muslin. I pin her clean blouses to the clothesline, humming. Before lunch, a quick hard rain. All the weeds pulled this past 2 hours, lick their wounds, bite down, reroot. Shirt off, straw hat shading my face, I snooze in the grass while the stainless sun tattoos my chest. Perverse wind, black clouds pushing in, raindrops big as teeth. I run for the house, then turn and watch, shivering as the cherry tree is stripped of its blossoms. Then it's clear again, steamy. Sun rays drill the moistened earth. I need to dig. I want all vegetables now. My spade flashes through the ground. I was younger then. Spade doesn't flash much anymore. Yeah, it would. All Saints' Day. This is a prose poem from a collection of prose poems called Going to Seed. All Saints' Day. We only got 9 trick-or-treaters last night. The rain blew sideways and wind snuffed out the jack-o'-lantern's candle. By the time the kids made it to our house, the witches, pirates, and princesses all bore a sodden similarity. Rain, 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 but still no frost. The garden isn't going to freeze this year, it's going to drown. Restless indoors, I pull on my raincoat and go out to work. The skeleton of a sunflower has toppled face down in the mud. A dozen unpicked tomatoes are just empty pouches of blotchy pink skin. What seems a dead rat is only the final zucchini. I start pulling up the blighted beans, but my gloves are quickly slimed. When I try to pitchfork the pumpkins into the wheelbarrow, they slump into pulp. Rain is trickling down my neck. My boots are slick with putrefaction. The hereafter is here and now, maybe, but there's mud on my glasses, and I can't see it. And finally, this is the consolation of rain for many of us here, I think. It's called Winter Riches. Early autumn rains blustered in this week, and some friends are already grumbling. The oncoming darkness looms before them like a sentence. They're getting pre-depressed. It's true that Cascadia is famous for long, dreary winters, but the odd person flourishes. As quick as the rivers rise, steelheaders pour out before dawn to cast their lines onto fish-haunted waters. Mushroomers, armed with baskets and small knives, get all bug-eyed, scanning the duff under fir trees for king boletes and golden chanterelles. And someone with a taste for gray solitude, for the drab music of guttering rain, and a penchant for gathering words and phrases onto a blank page, may feel flush.
Mark, Thalman.
Well, it's great to be here and to see all of you, especially since I don't get out too much. I live in Forest Grove, which is just east of Thalman Forest in Forest Grove. So Thalman Forest appears in the first poem. And also, just a sidelight, I've been coming to Newport ever since I was 1 year old. Not every year, but my parents used to have a cabin here. And so from about up to age 7 or 8, I was here every summer for the month of July. So I have a real sense and affinity towards this town. 10 feet of rain. And if you don't know what 10 feet of rain looks like, think of a basketball hoop, because a basketball hoop is at 10 feet. 10 feet of rain, annual rainfall in the Thalman Forest. The rain glistens like salmon scales on the tip of an eagle's beak, decorates ends of pine needles with ornaments, strips maples of their last gold leaves, flakes tumbling in a stream. The rain invades every valley, dances like a madman across the roof all night, falls hard and fast as if someone is pouring water from a glass. The rain says its name, and the chant blesses the forest. Windshield wipers join the chorus, while some curse the long cold days, the dripping away of their existence. And a companion poem to that poem is Extended Forecast. You guessed it, more rain. The rain raps at windows with thousands of little fists, fades to mist, ghosting the hills. The rain sprays from the back of a coyote, giving himself a good shake, trickles its way back to the sea, a perpetual motion machine. The rain makes circles mimicking trout, taking insects off the surface, fills an abandoned coffee cup, spilling over like all the gray days of winter. The rain is so pervasive, the Tillamook would stay in their lodges and feast, telling stories about the widow who could not stop crying. And the last poem is Mapleton, and when I was a kid I lived in Eugene, and I would read the Register Guard when it was actually a newspaper that got sent out. And there would be articles in there every year about the mayor of Mapleton holding a contest to see who could guess how much rain they were going to get. I don't know what they won, but there was this contest, which made me think of this poem. Mapleton. Every year, the mayor runs a contest to see who can guess the annual rainfall. After a few good storms, the Siuslaw rises, drowning Helen McCready's prized tulips. The rowboat tied to her front porch is again useful. She has no intention of moving. Helen was born in this house, and so was her mother. Her patience is stronger than the current. From the back porch, she fishes for salmon.
I love that one about the widows.
Yeah, I know.
Lex, do you want, we skipped over you early on, would you like to go now? Lex Runciman.
When I was teaching at Linfield years ago in an earlier life, I had the privilege of taking students across the pond to England for a 3-week course. It was essentially a course in literary pilgrimage. And one of the places we would inevitably go would be Dove Cottage in Grasmere, which is where Wordsworth and his wife and his sister and his children all lived for a good number of years. So this is called Lines Composed After 4 Days of Steady Rain. And it has an epigraph from Dorothy Wordsworth's Dove Cottage Grasmere Journal, 1800. A very rainy morning, very rainy, all morning. A very rainy, or rather showery and gusty morning. A rainy day. Those are all from the month of October. A complicated place, the past. It tasks us. Be other. Be better. Designed by sun, by leaf and feather, morel, chanterelle, and bee, and finback, right, gray bottlenose, and sperm. Make habit, not for profit's catastrophe, but story ongoing, as now this gray iambic rain reminds me of Grassmere, its little green square sodden, St. Oswald's yews and churchyard sodden, the river Rothe's risen sound hurrying past the Wordsworth graves, William and Sarah's sister Dorothy, daughter Dora, and Thomas, age 6, and Catherine, ever not yet quite 4. And though it's not exactly the bliss of solitude, nor emotion in tranquility recollected, you can in words and fact go there, walk that rocky track to bridle under rain, trees shedding flat water pewter, brief silver, the stone you awkward tread a channeled braid, loud with what gathers and waterfalls. Such trail the Wordsworths and Coleridge knew, waxed canvas coats, who knows what sewn shoes. On rock not far distant they carved initials formal as cut lead, and sat nearby in sun, and tried each and together to listen, intuit, look, and think and say what time had brought them. A moment, this, the next, how earth reveals itself in cloud, rain, sun, chill, warm, in leaf shape, oak poise, heathered, brackened, slaty ground, and fruit seeds in a green linnet gut. Such admirations found, born into their conversation, not science merely, nor sympathy, nor philosophy, nor health, but all of these, beauty, until at last they sat quieted. Clouds blew in. Leaving apple cores for birds, they started back, not as they had come, failing minutes later to outwalk the rain, then, which is not and is this rain and ours. So the past that tasks us may love us yet. This is called beach walking. Early March, no hat. Probably a definition of foolishness. Beach walking, early March, no hat. And this poem plays fast and loose with pronouns. So don't be surprised. In worry's featureless gray, he had walked out and kept on along a margin of shore pines and spruce leaned because they need to be. And she had walked quickly, beset entirely by what is, or might be, or is surely to come. And he did not think of weather, how low pressure had hammered and hurled itself all night's mile by dark hour over water, until that riverous southwest to northeast caught and shattered sudden across their shoulder, and made on the back of their scalp needle drills, quick to soak and drip, lull and gusts, rain all the moment, and she's leaning into it, this ocean's air of voices, all water off nose or brow swept by wind away. As in that dim morning gray, he turned and started back, sure only they will ever have done too little to merit this planet of water and salt, its history, my history, all souls, all I love, this moment, this. That's good.
Well, everyone is my favorite. I love both of those so much for the profound, leading up of rain and man's history, history of the globe, poetic history. Bill Siverly.
Thanks, Sammy, for putting this together. It's a great task. As 20 years editing Windfall, I know what a task it is. In fact, we have some back issues of Windfall on the table over here for free, so pick one up. The poem I have here is called Rock. A friend and I used to go up on the ridge above the Clackamas River. This is with the permission of the game department in Estacada. Pay $5 and you can collect all the rocks you want for your garden. And so we would do that. And I've got 12 mounds in my garden, which are surrounded by rocks. Rocks do much better than wood at holding things together. So this is Rock. On Fish Creek Divide above the Clackamas River, where second growth fir crowds close to the road, and varied thrushes dart upstream into the brush, autumn takes hold under clouds and constant rain. Blocks of dusky andesite lie where they tumbled down the escarpment of an old quarry, shaped and cut by millions of years for men today to pick natural bricks for garden walls. Suddenly rain stops, clouds raise the horizon. The king of the forest steps above the dripping terrain, a mountain with snowy hair who unifies earth and sky. Suddenly wind blows, clouds close in, the king withdraws behind mist and rain. Dark rocks fill the hands like wet mandalas, shiny images of the self newly minted from ancient days, lives of ancestors long buried in forgotten places, animal spirits who said things to women and men. Down Fish Creek Divide on the Clackamas River, a dipper flits from rock to rock in rough water, then dives and disappears for long minutes, only to reappear somewhere downstream.
That poem is one of my favorites. I love what you do with that poem. Karen Keltz.
First of all, I want to say that I'm very honored to be included in this collection with some of my poetry heroes. I see you around the room. I'm from Tillamook. I know rain. In 2006, I decided that I would write a poem a day to pay attention to what I saw around me during that time. Because when I worked, I had to drive to work in the dark, and I had to drive home in the dark most of the time. And I really just wanted to stop and look at some very beautiful things along the way. So this is a poem that's a compilation of rain that happened in January. January rain. The handkerchief of gray loomed over us all day. One end flipped up and there was sun, blue sky, and cloud. Then the other end rose up and whipped down rain, all day, flapping like a flag in the wind. My disposition matches the gray sky, the thunder clouds, the wind and the hail. A week's worth of rain is predicted. My fins and snorkel are wearing out along with my patience. The ground is saturated and beyond. Water squats everywhere, making our lawns seem like a miniature topography of Michigan. I step from puddle to puddle, and some mud holes lie in wait, disguised in tall grasses. River water wants to see what the bottom of bridges looks like close up. Today's words are squish and gush. Drowned earthworms, faded pink and limp, lie all across the sidewalk and road. Sushi for birds. Flood warning. Rivulets practice making canyons. Puddles believe themselves ponds, invite ducks to huddle amongst the quack grass clumps, mud and flung gravel. Creeks have delusions of grandeur, spill over themselves, crossing the road to visit their kin. Ditches feel useful again. Fields turn to lakes where seagulls arrive to graze. Water, seeking its common level, rushes, pulses, pulverizes the roadbed until it looks like a cookie, crumbled. From his garage, I heard my neighbor's saw whine all morning. I think he is building his art.
And my favorite haiku poet, Aron Rothstein.
Thanks, Sam, for including me in this. And this is kind of new because I don't think I've ever read my poetry to anybody before, except in workshops. I would just say that my wife and I moved here after 5 years in the Namibian bush, and we were looking for some place with clouds and rain, and we picked the right place. I think that first year up at 5 Rivers, if anybody knows where that is, we got 120 inches of rain that year, and every morning I'd look out the window and say, it can't still be raining, but it was. Let's see. Yeah, for me, haiku are just what's happening in the moment, and so some of them, they don't need much introduction. I guess since they're short, I'll read each one twice. Midnight rain, tree frogs pulse, a lullaby. Midnight rain, tree frogs pulse, a lullaby. Hunch-shouldered rain, a heron stands watch in the flooded meadow. Hunch-shouldered rain, a heron stands watch in the flooded meadow. Sheeting rain, the mallard pair face apart. Sheeting rain, the mallard pair face apart. And the next two are conca, which are somewhat longer and usually allow you to say more, not just what's happening. Underground waters, coursing beneath the meadow, springing from molehills, through the dark of winter rains, our story finds its way. And finally, rain whispering in the ancient spruce, faint murmurs of uncounted others sheltered through the years.
Well, why don't we take a 10-minute break? There's coffee, there's some cookies, there's things to make tea, there's some water. There are books displayed if you're interested. And I think often there's a little envelope if nobody's manning this section to put your money in if you're buying a book. So we'll resume in about 10 minutes.